Hello, how's it going? This is Jeff with Virtue Drums here in Jackson, Michigan. Today I want to talk to you guys about bass drum depth and kind of the effect that has on your drum. It has been a trend for the last couple decades or so where companies started making deeper bass drums, and the sort of 18 to 20 inch depth is pretty common. Some even going as far as doing sort of square depths that are the same as the diameter. My opinion and my experience has been that for me personally, and for the majority of drummers that I've interacted with here through the store and just out and about, most of us seem to prefer the response of a shallower bass drum. So sort of the concept and the marketing has drawn us into this idea of really deep bass drums being great. And I think a lot of times that's either been said or implied that maybe that creates a deeper bass drum or a lower note. I don't really find that to be true. The size, the diameter of the head, and the amount of tension on that head is really what dictates the fundamental note. The depth will play with the overtones, and certainly will play with the response and with the sustain or decay, or how that drum plays out after you hit it. And those are the parts that really I find are much improved by a traditional sort of, usually I prefer a 14-inch traditional depth bass drum. And sort of the reasoning is just the physics behind that, of this big column of air being hit with the same drummer and the same force and the same pedal and the same beater on the same head. Just really, you don't have enough oomph there to move as much volume as there. And certainly, if you're playing in a more nuanced way where dynamically you're varying and sometimes you're quiet, or especially if you're quiet, and then even, sort of moderate volumes, it just doesn't have the same punch and response as a traditional shallow depth bass drum will. So the other thing to consider is, if you look inside most drummers' bass drums, particularly if they're really deep, I think you'd be hard pressed to find one that's super deep that's empty. That's just not really a great sound that people are looking for in modern bass drum production. There might be exceptions to that rule, but by and large, most people are stuffing it with pillows and blankets and stuff anyway, because you've got this giant cavern of a big echoey chamber, and that's not really the sound you're looking for usually out of your bass drum. So that depth is really not helping you with that punch. It's certainly not helping you with that responsiveness out of the bass drum, the interaction between the batter and the reso head. So what I have found the majority of drummers prefer is a shallower bass drum, something in the 14 to 16 inch depth. Personally, I gravitate towards the traditional 14. And so when you're shopping for drums, keep that in mind. In today's market, it's a little tricky sometimes to get what you want in the depth you want, or maybe you already got sucked into that and you already bought a kit and you now realize you'd rather something shallower. In either of those cases, feel free to reach out. We do a lot of these sort of cut down jobs where this was a drum that a customer built about a decade ago. He built it or had it built as a 18-inch depth, and has since identified, yep, he really does buy into everything I'm saying independently without my convincing, that he just really prefers that traditional 14-inch depth. And so we cut this guy down, redo the bearing edges, re-drill holes so everything's good to go, hardware lines up, put it back together, and you got a great drum. So just know, even if you already have a drum that you otherwise really love, there are methods and there are things we can do to help you out and get the drum and the sound and the response that you're after. So feel free to reach out. We'd love to chat with you more. Hope you have a great day.